And yes, it is true. I have been cited 7 times at the EIB Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. This is the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, and today is Thursday, the 22nd of January, 2026, and we are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube and at WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is WYAB, you can always catch the stream. We appreciate that. Go ahead and follow me on X. You're going to want to. I'm always making sure that I put out the stuff that is, I feel, what is on the societal edge of cutting evolution. Yep, it's out there. The number, if you want to be part of the show today, well, actually, I'm going to hold off on that. The text line is open 601 879 5060. Mission here is standard. We're here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. And today, my goodness gracious, I know I went in hard on Pam Bondi yesterday, and I'm not going to say I'm going to let up with that much, but I am going to try to have a gentle tongue because it is the tree of life. But perversiveness, it breaks the spirit. And I don't want to break the spirit. I know that there's been some arrests done, but being on the cutting edge of societal evolution, we talked about earlier in the week about how there was thoughts that MAGA might want to travel up to Minnesota to get involved up there. And I said that was a bad idea. Well, last night or yesterday, my good friend Clay Edwards got a text. And I just want to read this to you because I understand this coming from out of state and how liberal states try to play in conservative politics and vice versa. But it's just better if we let people fix their own problems, because if people from the outside come in to fix a problem, well, it's never really truly appreciated and it's expected again and again. Listen to this. In one felt swoop, Mississippi Representative Fred Shanks voted against President Trump's education agenda, against an overdue pay raise for teachers' assistants, and against a PERS fix for Mississippi retirees. Representative Shanks decided instead to side with the Southern Poverty Law Center, the ACLU, and House Democrats due to thumb their noses against President Trump and Mississippi families. Fortunately, the good guys prevailed by a hair, a hair and a biscuit, maybe, by a hair. Tired of politicians who say they are conservative, but who side with the radical progressives when the chips are down. Join the fight for real conservative values at MississippiConservativeFund.org and contact Representative Fred Shanks and ask them to be better next time. Hit stop to stop. Well, I did some research on this, and thanks to Clay for sending that to me. I did some research on this, and this guy actually lives in Wisconsin. Now, the document that I'm pulling up here, it's right here. This is coming from Secretary White's website, so I'm not doxing anybody or anything like that. This is Office of the Mississippi Secretary of State, Statement of Organization for a Political Committee, the Mississippi Conservative Fund PAC. So this PAC is different than what is cited on the website that you can click to. It's all like a web that you have to follow through and go through. But this guy lives in Hudson, Wisconsin, and he's got a website. It's got his phone number and all that. And I'm not going to give any of that out over there. I think that's diabolical. But in order to start a PAC, it was my understanding that you had to have 3 people be part of that PAC. And this guy is not only the director, but he's the treasurer and also is the only person named on the board. And yet it's supposed to have all officers listed. Now, if you can have a PAC with just one person, that's great. But when I was part of a PAC, we had to have 3 people for legal justification. And it is kind of disconcerting to me to see that we can have people coming into play inside our political system inside of Mississippi. Now, I am more of the pro-choice for school education, but Fred was against it, and I respect him, and he's a good man. And you can see the political playbook that they're trying to use on Representative Shanks, trying to tie him to the Southern Poverty Law Center, trying to tie him to other liberal organizations, which Fred ain't got nothing to do with none of that. This is the game that the left plays and the right plays. That's why when I often say it's the political class against the rest of us, now you're seeing it. Direct opposition. He does have a website you can go to. It's 97 Consulting, and it's just the number 97fec.com, and it goes through all of the clients of this organization. So let's see who the clients are. Hawkeye Pack, Hoosier Pack, New Journey Pack, Buckeye Liberty Pack, Right Women Pack, Women for America Incorporated, organization, all sorts of political candidates. Jim Jordan for Congress, Kathy Landing for Congress, Kistner for Congress, Miller Meeks for Congress. Can go on and on about this. Rodney Davis for Congress. Rodney Davis. I'm gonna have to go back and check that one. I could have swore Rodney Davis was a Democrat, but maybe I'm getting confused. Other people that he's part of: Friends of Mike Lee, Grassley Committee Incorporated. Oh, here's the good one right here. The Illinois GOP. Yep. Minnesota House Republican Congressional Caucus. Republican Party of Cayuga County. Republican Party of Iowa. Delaware Republican Party. Friends of McCormick, Friends of Mike Lee, Grassley Committee, Great America Coalition, Green Dragon Coalition, Integrity Minnesota. You know, we've got problems all around the United States right now. And what we don't need is people coming into Mississippi and telling us how to do things. We had a spirited debate. I have friends on both sides of this issue. Clay and I have talked about it on the radio. Lindsey Beckham talks about it on the radio. I know Kim's talked about it a time or two. Chip Matthews has talked about it. All of us have talked about it, and we all have our opinions on it. I'm of the opinion that a school board can say no. And there's another bill floating around the House right now, the Mississippi State House, that's making all school boards be directly voted on by the people and not necessarily like what they've got going on in Tupelo, Mississippi, or in Clinton, Mississippi, where the aldermen appoint the school boards. I know that I sound like a broken record sometimes, but if you really wanna have impact in your local political body, if you really wanna be active in politics, it all starts locally, and there's nothing more powerful than a school board. Thank you, Mrs. Seitz, one of my political mentors from Illinois. I thought she was crazy when she told me that in the beginning, and I now understand what she was saying, and it's just a shame that, she's no longer with us for me to go and tell her, "Thank you." But I get it now, Mrs. Seitz, and I went to school with her daughter, Erica, long story. But this is the game that is played, and for me, it's downright diabolical. You know, people sitting there trying to get involved, go fix Wisconsin. You guys just elected one of the most liberal Supreme Courts in Wisconsin, even though it went for Trump. What happened there? You can say voting machines, whatever, but go fix that. And this guy, you know, it's really scary because you can go find his name publicly, and you can go find he puts his home address on the sheet, and I'm not sure that that's intended for public use, but it's out there, and I don't like it. So these are the services that he provides. When campaigns, PACs, nonprofits, and small businesses need absolute confidence in their numbers, they turn to said person, the trusted campaign treasurer behind more than 100 winning conservative races. So I'm not doubting that this guy isn't a conservative, but you know what works in Minnesota or works in Illinois, God forbid Minnesota, might not work here in Mississippi. I've been asked to run for office. Heck no, I'm not running for office. I'm way too blunt for some people down here. Imagine that. This is absolutely diabolical, and in the next segment, we're gonna have State Representative Fred Shanks on the radio to talk about this and talk about how going ahead and voting against the bill, which I'm totally fine with, everybody's gotta vote. I know that my state representative, voted against it, but he's a Democrat. But I have no problem with that, and we cannot have this conservative on conservative violence. Andy, that's p p what about Pam Bondi? Pam Bondi's an appointed official, she's not elected. Let's get that straight right now, and we're gonna talk about Pam in the second hour, don't you worry about that. I know people are all rejoicing over these 2 indictments or arrests that were made, and maybe the pictures are out by now, I don't know. But what I do know is that when we have people from outside Mississippi come into play inside our race, our local our local bill process, I don't like it. I don't. This is an issue that is very near and dear to many of us. I've been paying our family's been paying a lot of money to send our kid to private school, and we would like to have our tax dollars that go to education to be used for our daughter, and if that means going to a private school, great. But there are a lot of people who don't want, quite frankly, people from Jackson going to Northwest Rankin High. I don't feel that way, but I don't live in Rankin County, I live in Hinds County. So I feel differently, and there are good people on both sides of this issue. Who said that back in the day? Remember how they tried to twist President Trump's words around on him? There are good people in the Republican Party who are for school choice, and there are good people in the Republican Party who are against school choice. That's fine. Sitting there trying to gin up hate and discontent inside Rankin County from some county up in Wisconsin is not a winning solution for Mississippi. It might be for big conservative big media, people like Daily Wire, these national conservative think tanks, that might be good for them, but it's not good for Mississippi. So we're gonna take our first break. We're gonna have State Representative Fred Shanks on in the next segment. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Mm.
You have reached WYAB 3.9 FM.
Fred, are you
This is
there?
an unmonitored answering machine.
Hey,
Andrew?
brother Fred, are you there, my man?
Yeah, I'm here, buddy. I'll sit tight.
Yep.
But I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Give me just one. I think we're at another minute of commercials, and we'll be right with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You good, buddy? No problem.
Amen.
Check.
Oh, yeah. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. And we are blessed to have State Representative Fred Shanks from Rankin County on the air. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, Andrew. How you doing, my man?
I am wonderful and blessed. And it was really interesting yesterday. I was doing show prep thinking I was going to be talking about Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, I see this post on Facebook where you've gotten a text of people from outside the state of
Yeah.
Mississippi complaining about you. And I just wanted to give you the airwaves a chance to respond and get your take on it. The floor is yours, sir.
Absolutely, man. Well, I listened earlier, and you made some good points. And, my thoughts on HB2, the school choice vote, it's turned into a Republican versus Democrat issue, and it's really not. I voted with the people who sent me to the Capitol, and they did not want it. And I'm out there a lot. I'm out there probably more so than a lot of my colleagues on social media, just, the undercurrent of what's going on. And, this is not as popular of an idea as some people are making it out to be. And, and also what I hear, it's not really going to fare very well once it crosses over to the Senate. Again, that's what I hear.
Mhm.
And, in one point, I was the Rankin County chairman for Trump's last campaign. So it was really kind of stung a little bit when this jackass sent out a text message on me saying I was against Trump when I ran his campaign in Rankin County the last time.
Isn't it?
And he's I know you've looked him up. I've kind of done a little research, and he plays with dirty money, and that's been exposed already. But yeah, to get that sent out, it's kind of a slap in the face. And then too, like I said, this thing's far from over. So he think I'm going to all of a sudden be, this guy sent a negative ad out on me. Oh yeah, I'm going to support it now because like I said, they still need me, if something was to change, it's far from over. So just bad move on whoever was behind this, bad move. And, and exactly attacking another conservative, not a good look at all.
I did not realize, Brother Fred, that you were the chairman of the Trump campaign for Rankin County. That's
absolutely.
See, this is the kind of thing where people who are not paying attention to politics locally all of a sudden get something like this, and now they're all fired up. And I'm not sure if everybody out there realized that you were the chairman of that. And that's just absolutely incredible knowledge to have. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it shows you that, this is an outsider, who has no idea what's going on in Mississippi. Didn't look, into any of my history. The Shanks family's been Republican since Hoover. But again, it's a cheap shot. And the amount of support I got on people who got the text sent to me, it really aggravated them. And then on the post that you had mentioned earlier, uh, the guy that is really, and I don't know who this guy is, other than I've done a little bit of looking into him, but somehow he's a mouthpiece for school choice. This Corey DeAngelis guy from Texas, again, another guy from outside the state of Mississippi, going to tell us what we need to be doing, is a gay porn star, or was. And I'm not being harsh. I mean, that's part of it. But he typed up and made a negative comment on my post when I was exposing this ad, this that got sent out. So, I just find it's kind of comical that, the people who are pushing school choice so hard are behind some of these people coming after their own, and I've helped a lot of people who are on, the other side of me, and, and I always will, but, how do you expect me to help you in the future when you're coming after me on something that, and this is why, I believed in this vote, and it was a hard vote. It was the hardest vote I've ever had to take in my 8 years at the Capitol.
I hear that, and I've never was a state rep, but I was a county supervisor and a highway commissioner, and I can tell you there are votes that you take where they stick out in your mind, where you're doing the right thing, you're representing your people, and
Right,
you also know that you're voting against your leadership. And it's
right,
just one of
right.
those things that's so rare in politics, Fred, where
Yeah.
you have people of principle who are voting for their constituents, and they're getting attacked for it, and it's just wrong. And what are some of the other good things that you're doing over at the Capitol? What are some of the other bills that you're looking at, and what do you got going on up at the
Well,
Capitol?
so one of them that's got kind of stirred up is there's an NIL bill, which that's over. That's something that we did a couple years ago, to where college players can get money for endorsement deals, and somebody's dropped a bill that I'm going to be talking about next week to allow that in high schools. Now, I think that's a terrible idea, but just to pivot off of that, I did drop a NIL bill to where the college players who receive money for their name and likeness, like endorsement deals, to where it would be tax free. And my thoughts on that, I got the idea from a friend of mine, but my thoughts on that are that it would encourage, good recruiting here, where, the state of Mississippi is probably going to be behind a little bit in recruiting because, it's all about the money now. So
Mhm.
I thought that'd be a really good way to kind of help, hey, I'm a Mississippi State guy. My twin brother went to Ole Miss. So, we want to, I'm looking out for everybody, at the college level. And so that's one bill I got going on. I'll be working on the ballot initiative. That's a hot topic. I led the charge on it for 3 years, and now it's been turned over to Price Wallace, the chairman of Constitution, but I'm still on the committee. So, I'll be helping him. And then, of course, I'm the rules chairman, and that's probably the busiest committee in the state house. So I'm running 100 miles an hour every day.
Sir, I know that you are,
But
and go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, but the outside of the school choice, debate, I mean, the state of Mississippi is doing really, really good. And, we've had Republican leadership now for, 13, 14 years. And, we've got money. We've got the ability to make some really good things happen. We're talking about a teacher pay raise, which I do believe we're going to do, and some other pay raises. And the state's doing really well. And it's all because of conservative leadership.
Yep, united conservative leadership. It's funny,
Correct.
we go to these Rankin County breakfasts or the Madison County Grip and Grin, and you will see Republicans of all flavors in there. You can probably find somebody
Right.
who to agree with and certainly somebody to disagree with, and when we see this now, in that text, it said that you voted against a teacher raise or assistant teacher pay raise. Was that part of the education bill to try to get more people to
Well,
sign on?
it again, it's all a cheap shot. So that was
Yep.
obviously put in the bill, and I mean, one of the thoughts behind that being put in the bill is to entice people to vote for it. But my that was an assistant teacher pay raise.
Mhm.
So, and we've already talked about doing a pay raise, for teachers and assistants separately. And I do think that's going to go through, and it needs to be separate. It didn't need to be in that bill, but that's what he was referring to. It's all about kind of how you word things, But that was tied into the school choice bill,
Yep.
and I've talked about this for months back home, And, I've told him, like Trump is, this is kind of one of his talking points, the governor's talking points. I said there will be a teacher pay raise in it at first. And it was the standard answer. Do not support it, Fred. Do not, no matter what they put in it. So that's what I did.
And you are representing the people in your district in Rankin County very well. Everybody knows that Fred Shanks has got a backbone. Brother, we appreciate the work that you're doing up there. I'll give you the last word if there's anything that where can the people find you on social media and online?
Yeah, the best place. I'm on social media a lot. So you can look me up on Facebook. It's just under Fred Shanks. I just have one account. And if you got any questions, or I'll talk to anybody, or hear anybody out. And you can hit me up with a private message there, and I'll respond to you, and I'm glad to do so. And it doesn't have to be about school choice; it can be about any other concerns. So in fact, I listened to Clay earlier, and it got brought up. My buddy Senator McClendon, we got him on there,
Yep.
and he's mentioned something about cloud seeding, and I found that kind of interesting. I don't know much about that, but I'm going to start looking into that. So. If anybody has any questions, hit me up. I'll be glad to explain whatever, or kind of the process. And I tell you what, in the future, I'd like to come on with you and we can kind of discuss civics. How about that?
I would absolutely love that. That's like a passion of mine, is to get more people involved in the local process. One of the rules of politics is control what you can control. We can't control what's happening in Minnesota or DC, but we have a lot of control what's happening in Rankin and in Jackson. And to have you on the air, Brother Fred, I've got your number. I'm gonna hit you up after the ice storm. Let's get through the ice storm. But after we get through that, I'd love to have you in the studio, and we'll talk it up.
Absolutely, man. I'll be glad to come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was State Representative Fred Shanks from the great county of Rankin, representing us all. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Dude, I think that went really well. I'm really grateful and thankful.
I do too, man. I appreciate it. And I think that'd be good to come on and kind of talk about, because a lot of people don't know, you do, but a lot of people don't really know what a rep or a senator does. And one of my favorite stories I like to tell is Michael Guest is my first cousin, right? And
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so he was running when I was running. And I had people coming up to me in Brandon saying, Fred, are you and Michael, are y'all okay? Are y'all mad at each other? And I didn't know what they were talking about. And then I figured out they don't know the difference between a congressman and, a state, representative. I was like, no, he's running for DC. I'm running for Jackson, So, I think that'd be a good show, man. I'd be glad to come on and we can just kind of talk about that kind of stuff, just the basics.
I think that's great, because I don't feel like the schools here in Mississippi, just with the experience of my own daughter, get enough of civics education, and that would be huge.
No.
Well, brother, I'm going to get ready for this.
You're exactly right.
Well, brother, I'm going to get ready for this next segment, my man, and I truly appreciate your time.
You got it, brother. And we got to talk about Sharia law too. So we'll make it happen.
Sounds good. Take care, brother.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hey, we're on a commercial break. Can I take you after we go live?
Yeah, there.
Yep. And we are back here on the Andrew Gosser Show. No, I will not let you down. And we've got Eric on the phone line. Eric, are you there, my man?
What's going on, Andrew?
Hey, doing good.
I love that last segment. I really hope you have more representatives on from different districts. I'm in Rankin County, Northwest Rankin District. I love hearing from Mr. Shanks. I'd love to hear from other representatives. I'd like to get your thoughts on a couple of things. I heard part of this in Clay's show. I want to hold it with you. There's levels to all of this. Even a pro-choice when it comes to school. I'm actually from Rankin County, and the Rankin County Northwest Rankin District, and I'm all for pro-choice. But I'd like to clarify that. I'm pro-choice because I think anyone that's sending their kids to private school should be able to use their tax dollars instead of their income to do that.
Bingo.
Now, with that being said, everybody's worried about people from different districts coming in and causing a chaos or ruckus or whatever in their particular school. Well, you're looking at it the wrong way. You need to hold your school accountable for that and making sure that they keep everything orderly. And I think competition is a great thing. This is also going to cause some of these less desirable schools to step their game up and start disciplining children and keeping things orderly so children can learn. I think a lot of these areas would just give up and they're just letting these kids come in and do whatever. I think once you have school choice, that's going to force them to step their game up in order to keep their school, running.
Yep.
Now, I think we beat that to death. But I would like to talk about something else. We're talking about ICE coming in and the state passing some bills to actually put aside money to help ICE, and I think that's a great idea. But not just for Mississippi, but the country. I'm wanting to look at it something else. When are we going to start holding these companies accountable that are hiring these illegal immigrants?
Ooh.
You're looking at Pico Food. I'm going to call them out. Pico, Sanderson Farms, all these chicken plants around here paying pennies on the dollar for labor. The price of everything that I'm buying is still the same or going up. You can drive through any of these neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods are full of what I can only assume are illegal. They may not be, but somebody needs to check. Well, the housing market is the same or worse. I mean, the prices of houses haven't went down, yet their labor, they're taking advantage of this cheaper labor. So
yeah, Eric, you've
got
got
to hold these companies accountable and start penalizing them. Go ahead.
You've got so much in there. Going back to the school choice thing, I think we agree that if people are paying the tuition for their kids to go to a private school, they'd like to use that tax dollars for their child to go to that. With respect to holding your school boards accountable, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else I can say about it other than, if your school board is just there for the cookies and milk and the social status and clout of being on the school board, well, you're all in trouble. But if you've got active elections where people like you are on the school board or running for school board or actively attending, it's going to make a big difference on there. And one voice, even when you're in the minority, the one voice out there lone in the wilderness makes a difference. With respect to the glacier bill that was introduced by Senator McDonough, that was for that. We have to really be specific when we talk about this, because as he was explaining it, this is a reimbursement grant for local sheriffs, local municipalities, the state police, MBI, who operate with ICE on these operations. that they get reimbursed. And I think that that is absolutely critical. And
Yes.
it sounds to me like you know some places where ICE might need to go visit. And
Oh my goodness, when do they want to go?
you
And
know,
it's not just me. We all know this. I mean, if you live here, you know these places. We make jokes in our circles about, if ICE ever put up some kind of reward, we'd all be rich because it's not being hidden. It's right here. It's in the wide open. It's everywhere.
and that goes to a bigger problem that State Representative Shanks and I were talking about is civics education and understanding. We all sit here and we think we know, but we don't. And we don't sit there and take action on it. It was like, oh, we don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want to go in there and cause some problem politically that's going to backfire on me or my family,
Right. Well, there's a reason for that because we don't all play by the same rules. You can come in here as an illegal and get help for just about anything you can think of, and that's where the government should be held accountable as well. If you're a working citizen here, not to speak up because your life could be destroyed in an instant because of the retaliation and council culture. It's a real thing, and people have shut up because they're in fear of it. They're not in fear of physically getting attacked or anything like that. They're in fear of losing their livelihood and taking care of their family.
Well, what I would say to that, Eric, is what I would say.
Sit there with your hands tied and you dare not say anything.
Eric, what I would say right now is that there are people who are not afraid of being attacked physically. But if you just go up and look at Minnesota, up until a couple weeks ago, they weren't afraid of being attacked physically. And it's changing now. Things are absolutely changing. And it's difficult to go ahead and take a stand. And that's why we have Founding Father Friday. That's why we're talking about more of these things, because we need more patriots, not to sit up there and get physical and confrontational, but speak out against these things that they're seeing and not be afraid to be called certain names that we were horrified of when we were growing up,
Yeah, I could care less about that now. That's been diluted so much now. It holds no, merit with me at all. I agree. We are seeing some change, but, the double standard in the previous administration, it was a very real thing. We've seen it in, true time, live, people getting their lives destroyed because they didn't fall in line. So anyway, I back to what I said, I'm more curious about when are we going to hold these companies around here accountable for hiring illegals and paying them pennies on the dollar when we got Mississippi are desperate for jobs. People are, I don't know the number on our unemployment rate, but I'm sure it's through the roof. So when is our local, state, and federal government going to hold these companies and these contractors accountable for this? I'll end it on that. Have a great show. I'll be curious to hear what you have to say, buddy.
Yep. Eric, thanks for the call. I want to answer that for Eric. Eric, it sounds to me like you need to call your state rep and your state senator and ask that question first. And then you need to go contact 5 of your friends who feel the same way about you do that you do, and have them call their state rep and state senator. And it's one of those things where I have a lot of issues that I'm really passionate about and that I use my platform for. And I don't mind sharing that platform with others to go out and build their platform and bring awareness to their issues. But it takes all of us. It's just the example of House Bill 828, the dog hunting bill, where literally I was going to have to get permission for my livestock guardian dogs to guard my sheep who are lambing right before this ice storm. That's a whole nother issue. But my point is that it's going to take people like you. And if enough people like you, Eric, start getting enough of a momentum going, all of a sudden your state rep is going to start paying attention to that. It's nothing that happens overnight. Again, just like or State Representative Shanks and I were talking about, we've got to control what we can control. What's happening around the nation and up outside of our sphere of influence, we've really got to just let that go. Unless you're like one of these guys who can write a $1 million check to go ahead and blast off some texts and get everybody fired up, there's really not too much you can do. But if you have that local control and that local sphere of influence where you're influencing your alderman races and your school board races and your election commissioner races, even your county supervisor races and your county clerk races, things like that, bringing this up to your local Republican club. I know that they meet, I think it's the 3rd Saturday at 7:30 at McLean Lodge. There's a great Republican meeting there, and you know what? I think it's great. If I wasn't farming, I'd go to it. You've got Grip and Grin the first Wednesday at 12 noon every month. I'd go to that, but I'm on the air, and by the time I get there, they're all already packing up. So to your point of when we're gonna see something, it's gonna be when the citizens, the lawful citizens of the United States of America have finally had enough of being taken advantage of by the system that's been put in play by the political class and corporations, to exploit the human labor of illegal aliens. I think that's when you're gonna actually start seeing some real change there. But until then, it's gonna be just maintain the status quo. Those chicken houses, Sanderson Farms, etcetera, um, I I don't think Sanderson Farms provides chicken to Chick-fil-A, but whoever it is that is doing that, if all of a sudden their labor prices go up, are the American people gonna wanna pay more for a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A? I mean, that's just the truth. Look at the we have another example of this in North Carolina where where construction workers didn't wanna pay the rates for legal workers and, like, the illegal immigration rates. Here, let's take another call. Let's see what happens here. Go ahead, you're on the air.
What's up, my man? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, brother Richard. We're gonna hit a break here in a second. I'll let you go, but when we had to hit that break, we gotta hit that break. Go ahead.
I just want to respond to your previous caller, okay?
Yep.
And one of the gentlemen that was on Clay Matthews today, the money that would be sent to private schools, the big problem they have about that is, well, they're not required to take an exit exam. Well, guess what the public schools do? They give you the questions and you study for the test. Look at me. I'm a Class A school. Dude, you gave them the test.
Ugh.
I mean, really? Really? So send the money to academies. It's ironic they have an average 3-point higher on ACT than publics do. He talked about behavior. When I'm told to stand down on cell phone policy, they don't want to handle behavior. They don't want to deal with parents. They don't want to deal with that. Because if you get a certain number of suspension or ISS or some type of disciplinary action, you are classified as an unsafe school. Well, we can't have that. They're not going to deal. They're not going to deal with behavior. They're not. They won't. So good luck with hoping for them to deal with behavior because they're not doing it now. I think that sums it up, brother. Go to your break. Thanks.
Hey, brother Richard, I appreciate the phone call. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we get back, we're gonna get ready to prep for the second hour. We've got Trump in Davos just wrecking the new world order, and we've got to talk about what's happening in Minnesota with the FBI and the DOJ. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. We are WYAB 103.9. We've got more calls coming in. Let's just try to take as many as we can this hour. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Andrew. Good afternoon. How's everything going your way, man?
Hey, I'm not complaining. I'm getting ready for this superstorm that's about ready to smash into us, apparently.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to call in and have a rebuttal on one of the callers that called in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think everybody really knows the ag industry. And I understand we have an illegal alien problem. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the ag industry use what we call F9 workers, which I don't have any. I'm in the cattle business, so
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much handle everything myself. But in the chicken industry, you have to have workers to catch the chickens. You have to have workers to drive the chickens to the plant. You have to have chicken pluckers. You have to have all these hands-on factory workers. And in Canton area and other areas, they don't have. Everybody's going to the Nissan job or the Amazon job or to all the high-paying jobs. And in the ag industry, our government allots them to pay agricultural pay, which is they don't have to pay overtime.
Mm.
So, the American workers are not going to go to work and not get paid overtime. I mean, some do, some don't, and but that's where the conflict of interest is. I was in a rendering facility one time. When President Donald Trump came into office, the first thing that happened was that the illegal aliens, left. That there was a big. But anyway, the Mexican workers or the illegal alien workers at that time, they were gone. There was nobody to catch the chickens. There was nobody to process the chickens. So the chickens just stayed in the chicken house, and the farmers couldn't get they couldn't do it themselves. They couldn't go out and catch them and load them on a truck and take them to the factory and all that. So there was a big infrastructure farming at that time. It was just chaotic, and it dwindled on down to the rendering business. There was no market coming in, no material to make dog food or cat food or any of that, and all of that happened just because of that one. So we got to be careful. I mean, we need the F9 process to work, but we need it to be vetted too. And we got to be very careful about what we do. So I just want everybody to understand the ag industry and what it's going through, and what it takes to make a fried chicken on your plate.
Hey, brother, I appreciate it. We're right up against the clock. You actually filled the time perfectly, and I'm really thankful for your call. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We're going to take a 7-minute break. We'll be right back. Fire 'em up. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We are moving and grooving. In the first hour, we had State Representative Fred Shanks on. If you didn't get a chance to hear it live, you can always go to my Rumble or YouTube channel to go catch it. Definitely an enlightening conversation. And I'm excited to hear that State Representative Fred Shanks is going to come back on the show sometime in the next month or so to really start talking about civics. And this might actually somehow fold into the Founding Fathers Friday, where we really start educating everybody on what it means to be politically active, civically active locally. And that's a big deal. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on X. We are streaming at WYAB. So if you can't catch the 50,000 watt blowtorch that is WYAB, catch us on the stream. Number, if you want to be part of the show today, 601-879-0002. The text line is open. Some of them are kind of spicy this morning. This text line is 601-879-5060. And, just this is we're here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You are the saints. But this is so true. And I really appreciate this, especially with all of y'all who are calling in and challenging me. Because Proverbs says, better is open rebuke than a hidden love. And I'm so grateful and thankful to the people who I consider my friends, my dear friends. Like, everybody's a friend on Facebook. It's like, what does friend even mean anymore? You're a friend on social media. You're connected on social. No, I'm talking people who I go have lunch with, who we talk outside of the air, who I have personal relationships with, whether it be in my church or otherwise. And when I get differing ideas, I sit back and I'm grateful and thankful for that correction. I'm not angry about it. So, with that being said, we've got to talk about this ice storm that's coming this way. And when I was talking to the sweet bee, I was like, that high pressure is getting stronger, and this is all going to start shifting north. This was earlier this week. And we still did all of our preparations. We got everything we needed to do for this ice storm, but there's a lot of people who didn't. And I just wanted to spend 5 minutes talking about that because as the highway commissioner up in Algonquin Township, Illinois, we had snow all the time, and, we would brine streets, we would pre-treat, we would do stuff like that. And that all works great when there's not a lot of rain to wash it away. But if you look at the current forecasting models from the weather guessers, and that's all that we can do, and I know that Mississippi Emergency Management Agency and the powers that be who are taking care of our roads are looking at this. It's awesome that they're getting the trucks ready to go to be able to treat. But the thing is if you put that product down too soon, it's all gonna wash away. And, that was always the biggest part of my budget was the salt and brine, uh, but part of the budget. It was enormous. Well, that's not true, it was the second biggest. The biggest was obviously salaries for my union employees. I'm sorry, Brian, I had to do it. But other than that, I mean, you wanted to make sure you had the salt ready to go. You wanted to make sure you had the brine mixture ready to go. And, to see that our emergency management crews here in Mississippi have learned from 2021 and have a plan in place to at least keep the major thoroughfares open, that's great. But what should you be doing? I'm just telling you what we do at the BA farm, and what we do at the BA farm might not work for you and your household, but here, this is what we do. We have water. We have 2 full propane tanks for our gas grill in case we lose power. We do have a batter or power generator, not power generator, but solar panels at our farm. So we can go ahead and have some power should the lines fall down. We have plenty of food, and we dress pretty warm anyways, and we keep the house kinda cool. So that's our going in game plan. Obviously, our tractor is fully gassed, chainsaws ready to go should we need to do that, and, plenty of food for the animals. And obviously, you wanna make sure the gas in your car is filled up, your truck's filled up. If you have a lot of trees, you might wanna consider moving your car and parking them away from any big limbs. That's something that we do have to do at our farm is we have to park in a different spot because we do have, some really nice pecan trees in the front yard, and, they love to shed, and with this ice, this gonna be a really big opportunity for that. So just make sure that you have those things in place. Again, emergency weather radio. We talked about this when the storms were coming through, and those people who passed away tragically in Texas. they would have had a weather radio. They would have been good to go. Have that thing charged up and ready to go. Always keep your cell phones plugged in, because the truth of the matter is if you lose power, everybody's going to be clinging to their cell phones or sitting in their cars to keep warm. You want to make sure that you have some way to keep your cell phone charged up and ready to go. Also, medications. That'll be one thing that I am doing today is swinging by the VA to hit up my medication that I need to take, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna have enough to get through this storm. Because if you look at the weather guessers right now, what they're saying is that this is gonna push really to the north, and that the really nasty stuff won't be in our area until late Saturday night. It's looking like, or early Sunday morning. So it's not gonna be what we had, but I'm telling you what, in Northwest Mississippi, y'all better be batten down the hatches and getting ready to go, because that really bad ice line is looking like it's just gonna hover over Northwest Mississippi, and ice is one of those things, man. It was one of the worst things about it, because it just gets heavier and heavier, and it's almost like multiplication, and by factors. It's like a quarter inch isn't bad, but a half inch is, like, debilitating, and the weight adds up so quickly, and with all the trees that died from the drought a few years ago and that ice buildup, oh, mm, that's gonna be a difficult one. I'm glad I'm not dealing with that anymore. But I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the weather and, the mass formation psychosis that's going on with it. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. All these alerts that we get about the weather now, and all these kids with these cell phones getting these alerts saying, "Oh my goodness, the weather's coming. Be on alert, be worried." There's real anxiety. In to put this back in the olden days, as my mother would say, we wouldn't hear about the weather really until the tornado sirens were going off and everything. So we never had that time to build up the fear, the anxiety. These kids 5, 6, 7 years old, they've been getting pounded with this for 4 or 5 days now. "Mom, what's the weather gonna be like? Dad, what's the weather gonna be like?" And they're literally scared to death of this, and it just builds up a fear in our kids that, us Gen Xers and early millennials, we didn't have. I mean, we used to go around and chase the storms. We didn't necessarily worry about the weather like we do now. So the fear is there, and also too in our elderly population, we need to make sure that we're checking on our people. Whether you have friend group locally. I know where we're at in Terry, all of us, we check on each other to make sure that if anything's going south, that we can help out. And the last thing is if you do not have to be on the roads, especially if it's starting to ice up, do not audition to be the main character of the story. Even if you have a four-wheel drive and think you're invincible because you got a dually and you can just plow through everything. The best plan is to shelter in place until the ice melts. If you've gotta go, go, but I'm serious, go slowly. In 2021, we had our farm in Terry, but we were living in Madison, and I had to drive from Madison to Terry when I-55 was basically an ice sheet. I never went above 10 miles an hour. That was a long drive, ladies and gentlemen, long drive. But again, if you're gonna have to go out in that, go slow, but if you don't have to go out, man, stock up on the snacks, stock up on the food, the stuff that won't perish. It's gonna be cold, so you're not necessarily gonna have to worry about rotten and stuff like that, but make sure that you're stocked up to where you can stay at home 3 to 4 days and, just enjoy your time with your family. That's what I'm planning to do. Well, that's enough on the weather. If people want to call in and ask questions, that's great. But where I really want to start with is President Trump owning Davos, and here is the Secretary of NATO welcoming President Trump to Davos.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a pleasure for me to receive you in Davos. Davos, without you, it's not truly Davos, I would say.
That's just Trump, the secretary going, Mr. President, without you being here, Davos isn't Davos, and Trump saying, I agree, and everybody laughing. And we know that President Trump commands the room. We know he's the main character of the story. We understand that with President Trump going in there, especially with everything that's going on in Greenland right now, you can see he's already cut the deal. And, you know, it is the art of the deal. I do remember reading this book back in 2012, 2013 timeframe. It's really a great book. And if you can't actually read it, you can always get it on Audible and listen to it that way. But he has completely played the one world government, new world order, whatever you want to call it. I know that there's a lot of conspiracy names for it, and they try to make it sound like you're silly, but you're not. The political class, whatever it is. But this is President Trump. This is uh, a quick clip of him talking about how we won World War II, and he was being very blunt and factual, much like President Trump is, which is perhaps why so many liberals don't like him, because he's so blunt and brutally honest.
And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now, you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps.
And they laugh. And because you know why? It's true. You know, we saved France's butt. We saved England's butt. We liberated Germany. We liberated Italy. We saved the Russians. We saved those in Denmark and all those other countries. We did. Americans did. Did we have help from the English? Yep, they gave us some bases, but don't think for 1 minute it wasn't the American manufacturing base cranking out bombers and tanks like crazy, cranking out ships to get all of the warfighting materials over there. It was our great generals. And I think about this. I think about General Patton, who arguably is the greatest general of the 20th century. Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf has an honorable mention, but he had a lot better situation than Patton did, in my opinion. And for those who wanna have that debate, we can have that debate. But, you know, Patton, not only did he have to fight the Germans, but he had to fight his own army commanders. If go back and study the history, it's so rich about how Patton had to send literally a special forces operation to go steal fuel from another numbered army so that he could get army for his tanks, so he could go take more land and keep the Germans on the run. And now we have these crazy women sitting at home commandeering their cell phones and going out and making themselves the main part of the story when they don't need to be, sitting there trying to tell us that we're the bad guys in all this. The world would be in a very different place if it wasn't for the United States of America and the sacrifices that our men and women made, not only in World War II, but Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War One, global war on terror, fill in the blank of every place in the world that turned into a hotspot that America had to go put out, not because we wanted to, but because no one else could. And I do believe of what we're seeing right now in Davos and in Europe is a changing of how business is gonna be conducted. You're seeing America more worried about itself than it is about Europe. You know, if we're so bad in Germany, just pull out. The Italians don't want us to leave, so we'll stay there. If the English want us to leave, let's leave there too. You know how it is? It's like everybody always talks a good game until the rubber hits the road. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to be your friend because you're the one who's got all the manufacturing capability. You're the one who has all the technology. You're the one who has all the money. You're the one who has all the resources. The one thing that America doesn't have right now is its patriotic spirit. And that is probably the most frightening thing to me. Because when you have people who don't even want to put an American flag in their yard, when they're not proud of their country or their state for that matter, it drives me nuts. I don't have a state flag in my yard. I only have room for one flag, and it's gonna be Old Glory. I actually fly the Betsy Ross, by the way. because that's just kind of the person that I am. But love my country, and I want us to be number one. I want us to be the best. I want to support people who want to be here legally. I don't want to import the world's worst and then have to take care of them. You know, there's some rumors going around right now. Some thought that as much as $16 trillion of debt might have been fraud. Think about that. About half of our national debt might have been all fraudulent. If that doesn't tell you that the system needs to be at least forensically audited, if not completely rewritten, then I don't know what is. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yeah, you are back on the Andrew Gosser Show. Brother Clay sent me a text. The Rankin County Republican Breakfast is the first Saturday of every month, and it's at Cypress Point Resort now. So that's important to know. Cypress Point. See, I haven't been there so long because I'm a farmer, but I've been there once or twice. But Cypress Point, first Saturday, 7:30. If you're in Rankin County and you consider yourself a Republican or a conservative, or just want to be civically involved, that would be the place for you to go. Don't go out there and act the fool, but go there and meet some people and start to get to know your neighbors and get to know your people who are going to be making decisions in your community. And I did get another email, and I've got permission to read this, so I'm pulling it up right now. It's from Miss Arlette, and I asked for permission about this. Did you know that there are at least 13 counties with or 16 counties without either a Republican Party or a Republican Women's Club? And if you know anybody who's in Italia County, Carroll County, Claiborne County, Coahoma County, Copiah County, that's right next to me. Surely I know somebody. Holmes, Humphreys, Issaquah. Oh, I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Issaquania, Jefferson, Montgomery, Sharkley, Sunflower, Tallahatchie, Washington, Wilkinson, and Yalobusha. Did I say that right? Oh my goodness. There are no Republicans women clubs there. So if you do know somebody who's there and we want to start and grow the club, then please go ahead and reach out to me. I did not ask if I could share Miss Arlette's email, so I'm not going to do that. But if you text me or if you email me at just andrew@wyab.com, I'll get that and I'll pass that along because we want to do that. And those counties that I just listed, those are the only counties in Benny Thompson's district. Those are just Benny Thompson's district. So there's other counties out there that don't have that. And we wonder why Republicans aren't answering to what the people want. Well, there's no mechanism in place to do that. And there are other organizations out there too, Conservative Coalition, MPVR. I'm not trying to disparage them, but this is what was asked to me. I always try to use my platform on that. So there we go there. Getting back to President Trump in Davos, before the break, we were talking about how we basically saved Europe's rear end. Um, and we did. But President Trump brings up a great point right here, and I want to play it.
But the problem with NATO is that we'll be there for them 100%. But I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. If we gave them the call, gentlemen, we are being attacked. We're under attack by such and such a nation. I know them all very well. I'm not sure that they'd be there. I know we'd be there for them. I don't know that they'd be there for us. So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us.
I agree with President Trump on that. I don't know how you feel, but as someone who did 4 major deployments, combat deployments, and I can remember launching F-14 Tomcats off the bow of the USS America on Christmas Day, 1995, in supporting of NATO operations. I can remember deploying to Afghanistan with NATO troops all around. It really makes me wonder, and it's not even this isn't even being boastful or braggadocious or otherwise arrogant. We're just expected to lead. The Americans take the lead. We've got the best stuff. We've got the best equipment. We've got the best trained troops. There's a clip floating around on X. I didn't use it because I couldn't verify the guy what he was actually saying. But the French often would say they hope that they'd have Americans embedded with them because those kids know how to fight. And it's just the truth. And if we were attacked, I don't think Russia would attack us. I could be wrong, and I hope they never do. But if we were to be attacked by a major state actor like China, do you really think the English are going to start sending over their troops to help defend our homeland? Do you really think that the French are going to start sending troops our way to help defend our homeland, even if Joe Biden or the Democrats were in control? I I completely dismiss that, but I know that there's some Democrats out there who say that. Well, why would England want to come help us now? We got Trump over there. Trump is doing an amazing job of not only protecting American interests around the globe and in our hemisphere, but even against the silliness and the idiocy of Europe's elected leaders, they're getting a dividend or a benefit from American sovereign power. No one wants to truly mess with England or with France as a nation state. They'll flood it with illegal immigrants and criminals just like they're trying to do in Minnesota and around the United States. But that's how the next war is gonna be fought. And it's gonna come down to patriotism and nationalism. I mean, think about it. I've got this story right here. This is coming from Eric Doherty on X, and I'm gonna retweet it or repost it or whatever it is. In Minneapolis, anti-ICE agitators are targeting our Border Patrol K-9 units, including K-9 Dina, and it's got a picture of K-9 Dina. At the kennel where K-9 Dina was saying it was discovered that an employee had written, "ICE out" on her feed chart, and it's got a picture of it. These leftist, delusionist agitators, insurrectionists, we won't call them insurrectionists because, the Democrats don't like that, and the news media doesn't like it, but these people who are doing a soft insurrection in Minnesota right now, they're going after our dogs, and I think that might be the turning point because no one gives a crap if you kill a human anymore, nothing happens. You get charged with animal cruelty, and that's leading the show on WLBT at night. We're gonna hear about that, but now that it's an ICE dog and look, we love our canine officers that we have in and around here. Canine Voodoo, Canine Officer Voodoo over there runs up and down I-20 busting drug dealers. We love him. And we're grateful and thankful for that. We wanna protect our canine officers. We wanna protect our ICE and Border Patrol. That's why I love Operation Glacier that was talked about this morning. There's just so much out there that is sick and disgusting, that we're trying to combat, whether it be Trump over in NATO and Davos, or whether it be Trump right here in Minnesota trying to reclaim our own states back. And when we get back from this break, again, it's gonna be on the cutting edge of societal evolution. We're gonna talk about somebody we talked about earlier in the week, and we're gonna talk about Pam Bondi. I promised we'd get there. It just took a little bit of a long route. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
It's one of the most dystopian, the most chilling things I think I've ever witnessed.
So right now we're on our way to Terminal 1 at MSP, where these deportation flights load. And what we'll see will be an airplane that'll come in, a convoy with a couple of buses and a few vans will pull in alongside the airplane, and we'll see several dozen
Whether it's a public official, whether it's a law enforcement officer, no one is above the law in this state or in this country. And people will be held accountable. This state is a mess right now. We've seen the chaos, and it's constant. And our men and women in law enforcement deserve to be safe. And that's what we're going to do in Minnesota.
And I have to say, what caused all of this? What caused all this? It was Nick Shirley, an independent journalist, who kicked this all off. And all of a sudden now, DOJ is getting involved with this. I'm sorry, and people are saying, Andy, you've got to go light on Pam Bondi, but I'm just simply not impressed. Here's another clip. Let's listen to this.
There's a database that's out right now involving people putting ICE agents' license plates and other information out there in the public. It's here in Minnesota, it's in other cities. Can those people expect to face federal charges?
They better look out, because you cannot dox, you cannot, law enforcement's information is private. And you wonder, why are our ICE officers wearing masks? To protect themselves from these people. We are going to do everything legally we can do to keep our men and women in law enforcement safe and the citizens of this state safe, so they can go to church, they can go to school, they can go to work, and they can feel safe.
And why is it that we know about the church being stormed in Minneapolis? Again, it was a quote-unquote independent journalist, Don Lemon. Did he get arrested? Nope. No, he didn't. But it's funny because Miss Chantel Allen got arrested, and if you remember, I told everybody that this show, we were on the leading edge of this. She was one of the major agitators inside that church, along with that guy who is now saying that he wants to be killed. And you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution, which is straight up Chinese Marxism, Chinese socialism, and Russian Marxism. It's crazy how our society has been brainwashed. But again, remember Miss Chatrill Allen? Chatrill for school board, Chatrill for alderman, and she's involved in all these Black Lives Matters operations. And DOJ finally rolled her up and arrested her, and good on her, good on them for that. We support that. We one down, about another 20,000 to go. Just start sending a message that, hey, maybe the stuff that we're teaching and we're putting out there isn't making isn't a wise career choice. Andy, you know that when it all comes out, you're going to look so foolish for complaining about DOJ. Will I? I voted for Donald J. Trump. I personally made phone calls to both of my senators, U.S. senators, to support Pam Bondi after Matt Gaetz got submarined. And I expected stuff. I understand the challenge that is there, but that's why we put them in place to go in there and clean it up. Andy, it takes time. I realize that. But all of the fumbles, all of the missed opportunities, all of these quote unquote investigations. Congress is holding another investigation today. Hooray! Aren't you excited? Another investigation. Meanwhile, conservatives were living in fear under the Biden DOJ. And we didn't even do anything wrong other than speak our minds. We didn't threaten anybody. We still don't have any true investigations into all the FBI assets, because we can't call them agents, but they were assets who were in the crowd in J6 inciting violence. We still don't have any closure on the Epstein files, even though we've got pictures of Bill Clinton swimming around with what appears to be underage women. You can't really tell because they put the big block over their face. And for the record, we appreciate that and we support that completely. You know, this just goes to show you how convoluted it is. Congress passed a law that went through the House, the Senate, and signed by the president to release the Epstein files, and they're still dragging. Like Pastor PD called in yesterday and said, "Hey, you got to get the Republicans too." And I'm like, "Absolutely. This is not a left wing or a right wing, a conservative, a liberal, Democrat, Republican type of issue here. This is good against evil." And those political entities, those political people, it doesn't matter what they are, they conducted themselves not just against the laws of the United States, but against natural law. I mean, it is wrong for a grown man to be getting massaged by an underage woman or worse. Now Ghislaine Maxwell is gonna testify before Congress. What makes you think she's gonna say anything that's gonna really lead to anything? And if I'm wrong, I will mark it down. The 22nd of January, 2026 at 11:45 AM, I'll come on the radio and say, "Yep, I was wrong." But by my phone blowing up and I can't see it, but it's literally boom, boom, boom. I know this is a big deal for many people who voted for President Trump to end all this political nonsense, the political class nonsense. So, am I happy that Pam Bondi went ahead and got these 2 people arrested? Yep. Let's get about another 20,000 more in Minneapolis alone, and we'll be good to go. Have you ever heard of something called the Californication of something? The Californication of the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia? Th I bring this up because it's a creep, and you see it spreading across our country. It started in California, the crazy leftists over there. It went to Colorado. You know, Colorado, just 15 short years ago, used to be a very Republican state. Great state. It's now so far blue, it's not coming back anytime soon. You see what happened in the city of New York. It's not going to go Republican anytime soon. I believe Long Island's trying to separate from the city of New York, which would be an absolute disaster to the city of New York because that's where a lot of the tax base is coming from. People are fleeing California. We talk about it all the time. People are fleeing Illinois. We talk about it all the time. People are fleeing New York. We talk about it all the time. Well, Virginia, add Virginia to that list. With the rules that CIA spook of a governor is now put into law via executive orders and also the House of Burges and the Senate over there, Virginia is gonna fall, and that breaks my heart. 2 of my sons were born there. I have 10 years, arguably the 10 best years of my young adult life were there. My 20s, my teens and 20s. Naval Air Station Oceana, loved it. Fighter Squadron 102, loved it. The deployments on the USS America out of Norfolk, Virginia, loved it. Man, they are about to come under some really leftist stuff, and there's no escaping that, and it's not like you can just move a military base. It's gonna have impacts. So when we start seeing this Californication of places like Virginia, places like Colorado, places like Illinois, and you start seeing conservative states go a little bit more to the blue, it should scare you. It should scare Mississippi. You know, WYB is such a great resource. You know, you realize we had a Mississippi State senator and a Mississippi State rep on the air today, all before 12 noon? What other radio stations doing that? Allowing you to get real access to hear what your state reps, what your state senators are thinking and why. I mean, we talked about cloud seeding today with the Mississippi State senator. Man, I'd love to have him come on and just spend a whole hour talking about that because I've got some ideas on that too. And I'd love to be corrected, but as someone who coordinated air intercepts, and my whole mission in life was to make sure that the good jets went and intercepted the bad jets before the good jet or the bad jets could shoot down the good jets. Um, there was a lot of science that goes into that, and part of that is vapor trails and contrails. But but this is the whole thing. You know, we've got so much access to our control what we can control here locally, and not worry about it, but still pay attention on what's going around outside of Mississippi, and we have to do that. We have to pay attention to that because if we don't, 15 years might seem like a long time to a 15-year-old, but 15 years to a 30 or 35-year-old is not that long. I distinctly remember retiring when I was 37 from the military, not by choice. I just couldn't do the work anymore. Body gave out. But now I'm sitting here at 53 going, "My gosh, that time just flew by so fast." Think back to 9/11 and the patriotism then. Are we anywhere near that level of patriotism now? Not because we got attacked, but just because we loved our country? I would say no. We've got lots of work to do. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. We're going to take our last commercial break, and we will be right back. winning here at the Andrew Gosser Show. We are winning. And President Trump is really winning with his repatriation of jobs from China and overseas back in the United States. Here's another one. General Motors plans to move production of a Buick compact SUV from China to the United States for domestic sales. Jobs coming back from China to the United States. It's not instantaneous, but we're seeing results. GM said the next generation SUV is expected to be built in the Fairfax assembly plant in Kansas City. Why aren't they going to Michigan? Could it be because it's a blue state? I won't say it's because of the auto workers union. It's not because of that. I'm telling you, the more time President Trump gets to enact his plan with the tariffs, with the repatriation of jobs here in the United States, and do not forget, only Texas and South Carolina are ahead of Mississippi when it comes to new jobs coming from overseas. We talked about that story. I believe it was Russ Letourneau in the Magnolia Tribune talked about that. And wouldn't you know, the move comes amid pressure from President Donald Trump for companies to repatriate onshore production of its, as well as increasing contentious relationship between the United States and China. We need to divest from overseas. We need to become more self-reliant. I mean, especially when it comes to our food security. You know, we had that farmer call in the last hour talking about the chicken plants and the food security. We can't depend on illegal aliens to do that. And I wanted to say this, but we had to go to the top of the hour break. But I wanted to say that if the system we have in place inside the United States now for the production of chicken and agriculture isn't working, then we need to have an honest debate about it, just like that cattle farmer was talking about. And if you're still listening, dude, would you text me 601-879-5060? Love to take you to lunch and talk about it because I run sheep myself, and we're lambing right now. Figures as the snowstorm of the decade is coming, even though we just had 2021 5 years ago. As this ice storm and snowstorm comes, wouldn't you know it, I've got 47 ewes who are lambing, and I think we've had 10 lambs so far, and I think we're up to like 16 lambs. I think we've had 10, 16. No, that's not right. We're up high. Well, I didn't get you today's numbers from from Sweet Bee, so I'll have to figure that out. But that's just how it is in life. As a farmer, you don't have it. Oh, and I did have this from Andy Gibson. I want to read this message from Andy Gibson before we hit the break here. Highway Commissioner Andy Gibson. Because this is so true. And if you're not following Commissioner Andy Gibson on Facebook and on X, you probably should, because it's really critical. Let's not forget, breaking news: due to the upcoming inclement weather and ice, there will be no farms closed. We will continue to work as usual. If you ate yesterday and plan to eat today, thank and pray for your local farmers. We don't get days off. We go out and we have to break ice in the waters. We've got to go out there and make sure our lambs and calves that are just born are taken care of. We got to make sure the feed goes out there. It doesn't matter that it's blustery cold. Well, America's sleeping in their heated homes. It's a real. I'll tell you what, farming has been such a blessing to me, but at the same time, man, has it been reinforcing my work ethic. There are no days off. You've been listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. We'll be back in 22 hours. Take care, everybody. Be blessed.